Let's just start with that. Imagine hearing that from someone, a nurse, all alone on a night shift, describing something that just doesn't make any sense. This single moment would change her entire life. So let's get into what she actually saw in those shadows.
Today, we're diving into a really chilling first-hand account that comes to us from a hospital in Kolkata, India. And look, this isn't just some made-up ghost story. This is the raw, personal experience of a young nurse named Megha, who took a job that pushed her right to the edge of what we consider normal.
But before we even get to Megha, you have to understand the place itself. Because this wasn't just any hospital. No, this building had a reputation. It was one of those places that seemed to have this atmosphere of dread long before she ever set foot inside.
I mean, the local legends alone are enough to give you chills. People whispered these stories about a pond right next to the hospital, saying it was filled with gold. But, and here's the catch, it was guarded by restless spirits. The staff truly believed the hospital itself was haunted. And maybe the weirdest part of all, people said that anytime someone tried to write about its dark history online, the articles would just vanish, as if the hospital was actively trying to erase its own past.
So into this incredibly tense environment walks our main character, Megha. She's a young woman who, just needs a job to support her family. But she also carries this certain sensitivity with her, which in a place like this makes her uniquely vulnerable to whatever was going on there.
And her path to this job really wasn't easy. Her father passed away when she was only 2, and her family really struggled financially. She ended up moving to Kolkata and just poured all of her energy into her nursing studies. So yeah, when a night shift job opened up in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic chaos, she felt like she had to take it. This was her chance to finally help her mother, a responsibility she took incredibly seriously.
Her first day at the hospital, this was more than just new job jitters. The second she walked in for her interview in December of 2020, her body had this visceral reaction. A wave of dread so powerful, it literally made her feel sick to her stomach. It was like a primal alarm bell going off, telling her something was very, very wrong with this place.
And this wasn't just some vague feeling. See, years before, a psychic had given her 3 very specific physical warnings to look out for, signs that a paranormal presence was nearby. And on the day of her interview, she felt all 3. That overwhelming nausea, a sudden blast of heat that made her sweat even though it was cold, and her ears getting hot, almost like they were on high alert. Her own body was screaming at her to get out.
But despite all those warnings, Megha really needed the job. So she pushed through. She survived 10 incredibly unsettling nights. But it was the 11th night that was going to change everything. This is where her story goes from creepy to downright terrifying. Okay, so picture this. It's late, about 11:30 at night. Megha's on duty in a first-floor ward that had 5 patients in it. But then, senior staff just show up and start moving every single patient upstairs. No explanation, no reason given. And just like that, she's left completely alone on the entire floor.
Now we're in the dead of night. It's almost 3 a.m. She looks up from her phone, and that's when she sees it. A figure, covered head to toe in a white sheet, just glides silently past her and goes into the patient washroom. Her first thought is a rational one. It must be a patient who wandered down or maybe another nurse.
But then 5 minutes go by. Then 10. Now it's been 15 minutes, and that washroom door is still closed. The silence on that empty floor starts to feel really heavy, really oppressive. Why hasn't anyone come out? And who could it even be? She knows she's supposed to be the only one there.
So finally, she can't take it anymore. She gets up and walks towards the washroom, just planning to knock. But as she gets close, the door just swings open all by itself. She looks inside, checks every single stall, every corner. The room is completely, impossibly empty.
And right as that chilling realization is hitting her, her phone rings. It's her supervisor, and he's not calm. He's absolutely frantic, screaming into the phone, "Where are you?" When she tells him she's on the first floor, he just loses it. He knows something she doesn't. So he rushes up to meet her, and this panicked supervisor finally lets the secret slip. He tells Megha the horrifying truth about the space she had been sitting in, all by herself, for hours.
And what he tells her is just a total gut punch. The place Megha saw is just a quiet, empty ward. The staff believed it was a hunting ground for those spirits from the pond.
That patient washroom, they considered it a literal gateway for these things to enter the building. And that locked basement right underneath her feet, well, that was the hospital morgue.
The second this new reality crashes down on her, her body just gives out. Standing there in the hallway, she is instantly hit with a raging fever of 102 degrees. It was a physical reaction born from pure, absolute terror. But believe it or not, the horror still wasn't over. The final, most tangible piece of evidence wouldn't show up until she was changing out of her uniform at the end of her shift.
As she's changing her clothes, a whole new kind of dread washes over her. She looks down at her arm and realizes the copper talisman, this sacred protective charm she'd worn since she was a little kid, something she never took off, is gone. It has just vanished.
So totally panicked, she and the receptionist run back down to that haunted first floor. And there it is, lying on the floor right near the washroom door. But it's been destroyed. The copper is scorched completely black, and the thick thread is melted together, almost like someone held a lighter right up to it. She took what was left of it back to that same spiritual guide, the Baba, who had warned her all those years ago. And his reaction was immediate. He told her she was incredibly lucky to have gotten out of that hospital alive. He believed that some entity had launched a direct attack on her, and the talisman had absorbed the entire thing, basically sacrificing itself to protect her.
And that was it. That was all the proof she needed. Mega quit her job right then and there. She never went back, never called them, just cut all ties with that terrifying place and found a new job at a different hospital where she could finally feel safe again.
Mega's story is just this terrifying reminder that some places hold secrets we can't even begin to imagine. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of unseen histories are living in the walls where you spend your time? I mean, really, how well do you know the place you work every day?